So that's the nearest I get about trying to impart any wisdom. But I must admit, when I walk in the room, it's always one-on-one with one of the students. I walk in the room, I say, let me tell you first, I don't know how to do this. He would never know just how strong his own scent really was. That was the surprising revelation from Paul McCartney in an interview with BBC Radio's program Legends Unfiltered. It wasn't about hit songs or iconic recording sessions, but rather about odors, the natural scents that Paul had to endure throughout thousands of performances with his legendary bandmates. Even though on stage they shone in glamorous outfits, smooth hair, and dazzling lights, right after the performances, their natural body scents often caused people to take a step back. From perspiration that hadn't yet dried to outfits that weren't changed frequently, everything combined to reveal a reality very different from the perfect image seen under the spotlight. So who were these legends? Keep watching until the end of the video because the last person on this list made Paul exclaim, "That scent was really something, oh my." Number 1. Elvis Presley. His perspiration had such a strong presence that you could tell he was in the room the moment you stepped inside. There are stories in the music world that everyone has heard in passing, but very few dare to recount honestly. In a behind-the-scenes interview with BBC radio reporter Janet Morgan in late 2008, Paul McCartney once shared a memory he said he could never forget. This story had nothing to do with melodies, performance techniques, or production secrets. It revolved around something seemingly minor yet strong enough to overwhelm anyone who walked into that room: the natural scent around Elvis Presley. According to Paul, on the evening of August 27, 1965, when he, John, George, and Ringo visited the Bel Air mansion to meet Elvis, a meeting heralded as a historic encounter by Melody Maker, NME, and even Time magazine, none of them imagined that what would stay with them the most was not the music, but the atmosphere inside the room. Elvis was rehearsing for a new film project with MGM. He had just finished a series of intense moves that left him sweating non-stop. But what made things more surprising was that the rehearsal room was completely closed, with only one struggling air conditioner and harsh studio lights shining directly on him. When Paul pushed open the door, the first thing that hit him was not music, but a dense, warm, pungent scent, like damp clothes sealed in a box for too long. Paul once described it as, "Just cracking open the door was enough to know Elvis was already inside." He froze for a few seconds, then forced himself to step in. After all, it was Elvis. Who could refuse? But each step closer meant another layer of scent rising around him, prompting Paul to stand near the window to catch his breath. John Lennon, according to several reporters stationed outside the mansion that night, including Carl Thompson of the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, also seemed a bit uneasy. George Harrison was said to have repeatedly adjusted the thin mask he often wore while moving around Hollywood, though no one knew whether it was due to dust or something a bit more delicate. While the Beatles tried to remain composed, Elvis appeared completely unfazed. He wasn't bothered by perspiration, didn't change outfits, and even continued rehearsing a few moves, making the room hotter still. A backstage employee at RCA, in an internal memo leaked in 1987 and later mentioned by magazines like Rolling Stone, once wrote that the outfits Elvis wore during rehearsals had to be replaced frequently because the scent lingered strongly. And that wasn't all. In early 1965, the teen magazine Tiger Beat unexpectedly published an article titled "Elvis and His Mysterious Late-Night Training Habits." The article described how RCA's gym room often held a very strong presence in the air after Elvis's rehearsals. The article survived for only 2 days before being taken down. Within Los Angeles media circles, rumors spread that Elvis's management requested its removal to avoid misunderstandings. But as things in Hollywood often go, the more something is erased, the more people talk. Many inside MGM recalled that between 1964 and 1966, the wardrobe department had to send urgent notes to management because Elvis's outfits after each scene held on to their scent for a long time, even after treatment. These notes were never officially released, but they lingered as quiet studio gossip for years. What made the story unforgettable, according to Paul, wasn't that he wanted to criticize anyone. It was because the moment reminded him that behind the glamorous spotlights, music legends were still just human, everyday, imperfect, and real. But at the same time, the story opened a long list of famous names who had sparked similar behind-the-scenes conversations. Paul did not recount these things with judgment, but as someone noting down what he genuinely witnessed. Right after telling the story about Elvis, Paul began mentioning a powerful Welsh vocalist, known for electrifying performances, but also for backstage situations that left entire crews quietly stepping aside whenever he entered the room. 2. Bob Dylan. Standing near him, you could immediately sense the sharp smell of burnt tobacco lingering in the air. Paul McCartney once joked in a private taping of the BBC4 program later that night that there were moments in an artist's life he remembered not because of music, but because of scents. And among the many unusual situations he witnessed in the 1960s, the one involving Bob Dylan was something that left Paul both puzzled and slightly uncomfortable. So much so that every time he recalled it, he couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. On the night of August 28, 1964, at the Delmonico Hotel in New York, the Beatles had just stepped off the elevator on the 6th floor when Paul felt the air in the hallway grow heavy. At first, he thought the hotel might have had a small fire somewhere because a burnt smoke smell mixed with old fabric brushed against him distinctly. But when the door of room 603 opened and Bob Dylan appeared, Paul immediately realized where the scent originated, from the very person they were about to meet. That day, Dylan was wearing his usual dark brown coat, the same one that reporter Larry Kane said he saw Dylan carry throughout the entire tour, from Chicago to Washington, D.C. The issue was that the coat looked like it had gone through many long nights, absorbing old perspiration, deeply embedded smoke, and a lingering dampness no one could quite identify, whether from rain, the stage, or Dylan's famously chaotic lifestyle at the time. The moment Dylan stepped forward to greet everyone, Paul nearly stepped back because the scent hit him so strongly. It wasn't the pleasant, woody kind of smoke, but a thick, sharp combination intertwined with fabric that hadn't been aired out. In a 1986 interview with The Observer, Paul described it as, "It felt like standing beside a coat that had a history of its own, a very long one." According to a work diary revealed by journalist Larry Kane in 1971, the Beatles quietly joked among themselves that Dylan didn't seem to believe in the concept of changing jackets. While late August New York was scorching, Dylan kept the same heavy outfit on all evening. He embraced a carefree image, disheveled, loose, unpolished, and once even told WNYC that he didn't want to dress neatly because it didn't feel like himself. This carefree lifestyle unintentionally fueled countless backstage anecdotes. A staff member at CBS Studio on West 57th Street shared on the show Inside Tracks that whenever Dylan left the recording room, they had to open the windows for nearly 20 minutes to let the air clear. According to this person, the lingering scent was a mixture of unfinished cigarettes, the sweat of long deadline nights, and old fabric that Dylan seemed to favor wearing for entire weeks. Dylan often showed up to social gatherings in this same condition. Rolling Stone wrote in 1978 that during his transition from folk to rock, Dylan almost lost control of his daily habits, eating irregularly, sleeping at odd hours, forgetting to change clothes, sometimes going entire days fueled only by